welcome as always to Overdrive. Tim, will bit of a quiet week this week in terms of motorsport, but some interesting news out and about, particularly in terms of Ferrari signing their first female to their team academy.
Oh yeah, that's a great step, and it's long overdue. There's a lot of female talent out there, as we all know. I'm quite an advocate of female racing drivers. Frankly, I think there's quite a few out there that really should go a lot further at the minute. I mean, the W Series is crammed full of talent that it's a crying shame it isn't actually in some of the higher formulas. But hey, we get to see some great racing out there because they're all there.
Yeah, that's very true.
I mean, you've got them all. Well, Ferrari have just put them into their driver academy, right? I mean, there should be more with the Red Bull driver academy in there, but they don't seem to stick too many in, or that you even hear about. I mean, there's a lot should have more of them on their test programs, because there's a lot of female drivers that are just as adequate at driving as some of the other blokes that are there.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, you've already had some female test drivers. We've got Caldron out there. If you remember the tragic accident with Diva Lotta.
Yep, and
as well.
Forget Susie Wolf, as she is now.
Yep. And who's the other Spanish girl? I've forgotten her name.
Yeah, I've forgotten as well. It will come to me as well. But we've also seen in America in IndyCar racing.
Tanika Patrick, very true.
But come away from that, the two great Brits that have been out there in the last couple of years, Catherine Legg and Pippa Mann.
Yeah.
So there are, there's some great talent out there, and let's not forget, you start going into sports car racing.
Yes.
Yeah, there's such a
Sophia Flores. I mean, she's making waves.
Yeah, and remember, Tim, when we went to Daytona in 2005, you had Milka Dunno racing then as well.
Yeah, that is also very, very true. And there's a fair few ladies out there, but I still think there is a lot of untapped talent out there. And you look at some of the background stories of some of the women that are actually in W Series at the minute, and it's a case of they almost fell into it by accident, because frankly, it's only just that someone finally realised that actually they were faster than all the blokes they were racing. Yeah. Suddenly, someone decided to take a chance on them. For instance, Vittoria Period, the Vicky Period, the Italian racing driver. If you read her background story, it's just one of those things of someone basically phoned her up and went, "Look, we've realised you're very fast. You fancy driving them, their free car?" And just a case of what? She just didn't expect it to happen, because that just wasn't, what girls were meant to do. She was racing with her brothers and absolutely thrashing them in karts.
Yeah. And
that's where it came from.
I mean, you're seeing them in a lot of other sports where the women are getting much more notoriety in their field now. With sports, with football, with rugby, stuff like that, where they're getting much more focus and attention on how good they can actually be, rather than being pushed to one side. And that's what the F1 teams need to adopt a lot more, because they are just as good as the blokes. You can't just be seen as the old school male-dominated sport.
A bit of a question on this one. Now, in some sports, you have almost mandatory positive, discrimination, let's say. Do you think it should actually be a case that a female driver should actually be adopted by each and every team and used for a set amount of testing, maybe, to actually try and push this forwards?
I guess that the problem that you've got there is that how do you then say, are there other areas of diversity that you then have to include? And that's been a big thing over the last year. If you think about the whole response around Black Lives Matter, not disregarding that for any 1 second, but it has raised the element of diversity within motorsport. And Lewis Hamilton was the first and so far only black Formula One driver. That could have been very, very different if you look back at American driver Willie T. Ribbs. He tested for Brabham in 83, 84, could have very well been the first black Formula One driver had there have been sponsorship from corporate America. And it's really interesting watching his Netflix film Uppity, because it's a very interesting insight into the world of motor racing as it was then, and certainly some of the prejudice from the South states when he was doing NASCAR racing. But it's absolutely unbelievable that there is such an motorsport, and particularly Formula One, is considered to be such a white male dominated sport, and there's so many other areas of diversity that need to be addressed.
Yeah, it's one of these things of you see other sports, it's like, for instance, darts. It's one of these things where realistically motor racing, it should be men and women should share equal skill levels. If it comes down to something like rugby, you can't really have 24 stone of rugby male hammering into a smaller woman. It literally is unfair, grossly unfair in fact. However, in a car, I'm sorry, it's down to reactions. And actually, I know plenty of women that are strong enough to drive a Formula One car. There's no physical detriment to them. I really think that they should be able to do it. It's a bit like the darts. You've got Paige Farron, who's actually gone out there and actually played at the highest level against men. She's not trying to be in the women's side of it. She's gone out there and proved herself as just as good as the blokes. There is nothing really that actually physically holds them back. Women do not possess less skill of this at all.
No.
And realistically, it's the whole diversity thing. I think, as you rightly said, the BLM movement has really brought it forwards. But I think there needs to maybe be a wider call on this. And it's a case of should there actually be quotas on diversity? It's a case of sometimes you've had to do it in the past in other elements of society. And actually, is this something that we're going to have to look at? Because otherwise, it's a case of, is Formula One just going to become an irrelevant sport and, in the future get viewed in the same way that fox hunting is now viewed?
Yeah, it's a very interesting thought, Tim. And you've mentioned about speed. Let's not forget, Max Verstappen, the current Red Bull wonder kid. Everyone says about how good his dad Jos was as a racing driver, but let's not forget
that was good.
Exactly.
Yeah. No offense, I didn't think Jos was actually that good. Max is definitely better than his dad, but I suspect actually he gets that talent from the female side.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness to Jos, he's probably a better racing driver than either of the three of us here. He did make it to Formula One.
No, I reckon I can crash better than him.
Oh.
Well, yeah, you did get style points.
Yeah, exactly. I've definitely been involved in more accidents, I'd say.
But do we think, if we're talking Max Verstappen now, right? Do we think that Perez is really going to give him more of a kick up the arse?
More of a challenge? No.
No, I mean, it was expected that Perez was going to be, the wonder kid when he went from Sauber to McLaren to partner Jenson Button. That didn't happen. Do I see him doing it now at Red Bull, given his age? No.
I view him as an also-ran. I don't think, don't get me wrong, it's Formula One drivers, all of them are very, very good to have even got to that level. However, there are still grades within that field. And quite honestly, the front of the field, I think currently there's 3 standout drivers. Hamilton, definitely, Leclerc, definitely, and Verstappen. No matter what you think about the 3 of them, no one is really going to argue that they're not the 3 best drivers out there. Do I think Perez could actually live in the same team as any of them? No. Realistically, I don't think he'd actually be able to be in the same team as Raikkonen at the minute, or Vettel, who I think are 2 very good drivers, but maybe not in that top 3.
Yeah, but I guess from Red Bull, the way that Red Bull have looked at this is Alex Albon hasn't delivered. He's not delivered. And
No.
from a constructors or perspective, to try and get the most out of the Constructors' Championship and to try and get the most points, they need a solid peddler. And in fairness, Perez is a solid peddler. He's not going to set the world alight, but he's going to be up there. He's going to score points. He's a consistent point scorer, and he's shown in the past that he can take a car that shouldn't be on the podium and put it on the podium.
Maybe, but also statistically, I think he does tend to crash into other people an awful lot more than many other drivers. And realistically, you need to actually finish the race to actually score the points. And we can all name many different drivers he's crashed into. I remember the time when he got frustrated with the Williams and actually punted the Russian off the track, as I remember. Won the Far East races. Was it Malaysia?
I can't remember. I'd have to have a look at that.
Yeah, it was. But basically, he got bored with it, so he went up there and literally smacked him off the track, and that was after he'd already stuck his previous teammate into the wall in the same race. And it's just one of those things. There's lots of things where people are going, "Oh well, what?"
Yeah, but maybe in the team.
You there, Wolf?
That's not a good look for Wolf to freeze on.
No.
This is the element of lockdown, 2020, 2021. Can you hear me? Have you frozen? You're on mute. Wolf, come back to us.
Or has he?
Yeah, I'm having troubles with my connection at the moment.
Yeah. Yes, your connection is what's known in the trade as NAF. Yes. Anyway, you were saying, Wilf, because I can see you moving in a minute, and I don't think it's jitter on the feed.
No, it says my connection. Yeah, I just keep getting jitter, and you keep freezing still.
Right. Wolf, you're in the middle of saying something. Okay. Well, while Wolf sorts himself out.
I don't know what I was in the middle of saying. He went tits up. What was it? Remind me.
Well, I don't know. We didn't hear anything.
What was I in the middle of saying?
Were you having one of your rants about
no,
Perez?
I would probably something.
GP2 connection. GP2 connection.
Okay. Well, we're talking there a little bit about Williams, and this week, Jenson Button has gone back to Williams, the team that he started his F1 career at. He's gone back as a advisor for the new owners. Thoughts?
That is a very sound move. At the end of the day, he has become a world champion, and he knows about, frankly, that was a car that was in the end developed on a very low budget, but was made to do amazing things. So he knows what went on then. So he knows the rough formula to try and help them introduce. So actually, I think that's a pretty shrewd move. Plus, the guy's very, very articulate.
Mm.
Yeah, he
I
may
mean,
not
he's
have
got a lot
been.
of he's got a lot of experience. He's got a lot of knowledge, and he's got a lot of stuff that he can pass on and help the team with. Do you know what I mean? It's a lot of a lot of credentials that he's going to bring to Williams to improve it. So I think that that's a very good move on their part, getting him in.
Plus, there's also the name, which will help draw other people of similar caliber in.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think I do think it's a good move. He was, you know, depending on who you listen to, but he did have apparently he had quite a bit of involvement in the Brawn buyout of Honda, and had some involvement with Ross Brawn and Nick Fry as they were going around trying to raise some sponsorship and get funding together. So yes, he has had that side of things, and he's been, you know, let's not be unfair to the guy. Since retiring from Formula One, he's not been a slouch. He's been racing in Super GT in Japan. He's been doing, you know, various other sports. You know, he's been quite full on out there as well, still doing his triathlons. He's still active, he's still competitive, he's still got that competitive mindset, which I think is going to be important in that role.
Yeah, he's done the triathlons as well. So the guy's a natural born competitor. You're right in saying that. And realistically, it's one of those, at the minute, I think that it's going to be a relatively low key appointment, but I think he could be one of those racing drivers that actually has the nous to do something in racing after his racing career is finished. For instance, we now see Jos Verstappen an awful lot more than we ever used to see him before, because actually manages Max and sorts out a load of other stuff behind the scenes. And actually, Keke Rosberg, well, yeah, no offense to him, but he's a much better businessman than he ever was a driver.
He did win the world championship.
Yes, but how many races did he win to do that?
One.
Yeah, exactly. In other words, he managed not to die.
In other words, he was consistent, and he didn't.
Yeah, he put himself in a position where he got enough points. Do you know what I mean? Just because he didn't die, that's not an achievement. Do you know what I mean?
To be fair, in that era of
criteria,
racing, that was quite an achievement. You know, it's realistically, you were basically strapped to the petrol tank.
Oh yeah. But,
I'm not sure he's putting it on his CV. Didn't manage to die in F1.
But you're right. He was has been a very successful driver manager, because he managed Mika Hakkinen, JJ Leto.
Yeah,
if you can remember him, had his own. He had his own touring car teams in DTM. So yeah, he's been pretty successful. You can see that that Nico has picked up on that business acumen as well.
Yeah, it's with his YouTube channel.
Yeah, but also his Extreme E, his the work that he's been doing on sustainable. He's been doing quite a lot in Germany on sustainable renewable energy.
Yeah, without doubt, it's realistically, their brains have been put to good use elsewhere. It's and this is it. It's I think we're going to see an awful lot more from Jenson Button. He's going to be one of those drivers that might not necessarily have been, let's say, knighted for his racing career, but I see him going on to make several other achievements, which in the future I do suspect we may see a Sir Jenson Button because of other things he's likely to do.
I mean, I can see him moving on taken with Williams, like as he is, like in that capacity role that he's achieved for a couple of years, and then he'll start moving up in that criteria, and then he could move on to not team principal, but do you know what I mean? But getting in that sort of field, or become like the drivers' management, as in.
Do you see him sort of taking the
their
role,
personal trainers and stuff like that?
Did you see him then maybe taking like the role that like Niki Lauda had at Mercedes alongside Toto Wolff? Niki was the non-executive director, but it was him and Toto working together. Do you see him in that kind of role? with someone else.
You know, there's a very valid point here that actually Toto Wolff was actually a racing driver as well. And also Christian Horner had a small racing career. These are all racing drivers there, but in many ways. And you look at several other people in the background and you think, wait, they raced.
Let's not forget Zach Brown at McLaren still races now, does historic racing, and has United Autosports as well. So, you know, there's...
Yeah, and Mr. Adrian Newey, I do believe, turns the wheel occasionally.
Yes, he does. He does indeed. And a couple of things there that I just want to pick up on, and there's a little bit of links. We talked about knighted drivers.
Yeah, I mean, I can see him with...
GP2 connection.
We talked about knighted drivers. We talked about Rosberg, Jenson Button, Toto Wolff, Niki Lauda. There's one person that connects all of that, Sir Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
And the contract still hasn't been signed. There's still issues with the contract.
You know, I get an idea that actually this is possibly master sandbagging from Mercedes. I have a feeling they're trying to make the other teams think that they're weak. When that contract was signed, I'd say probably over a month ago, and they just haven't announced it. I think they're just going to announce it in a blaze of glory and go, "Oh, sorry, you thought we were struggling, did you?" Tough. Yeah, it's I think Mercedes have learnt the art of sandbagging better than any other team in history.
But are they, or do they? You know, the part of the issue appears to be this 40 million that Lewis is after, and Toto's saying they're not paying. And in fairness, I can kind of see where he's coming from, because they've got George Russell sat on the sidelines, who can do almost as good a job and probably for a tenth of the money.
Maybe so, but it's one of those things of they're not going to break apart a winning formula. It's one of those things. While they're still winning with that formula, why are they going to change it? And realistically, there is a very rich parent company there, and realistically, it makes them look good at the minute.
Yeah, but are you gonna just bow down to his demands, or are you gonna look at it on a business point of view of continuing in that vein? Do you know what I mean? It's a case. It then sets a precedent where if somebody starts take Lewis out of the picture for a minute and bring in a new driver. New driver gets 3 or 4 championships. Then does he start getting the same influence as, oh, I can demand what I want, and the teams are going to pay it? Or do the teams take a stand and just go, no, we will do it for the teams, for the good of the team, rather than just...
Realistically, certain drivers have always been able to demand paychecks, though. If we go back and look at it, yeah, let's face it, Vettel basically got blank check waved in front of him by a Ferrari. We already know that. There was a huge sum of money for that contract. Now, if anyone thinks that Schumacher wasn't on stupid money, they need their head read. So teams are always willing to write out big checks for the best driver that is available.
Yeah, but you've got to look at the situation that we're currently in. Do you know what I mean? This situation now we're in, with obviously what COVID has brought us into. Now we've got to look at a lot more financial fair play, a lot more price cap. There's a lot more money cap going on. Teams are not just going to go back like 5-10 years ago, where you could just throw money willy-nilly.
There's all been talk about it, but the thing is, I really suspect that deal is well and truly signed. It's one of those things of, I just think, are we just seeing master sandbagging again? And to be honest, it rings true to me that how many times you even seen Toto Wolff go, we're terribly slow, we've got so many problems, then immediately smash everyone else off the track on the first race. How many years have we seen that?
Yeah, I think though this year might be different. As Wolff said, we've got the budget cap coming in next year. So teams will want to spend what money they've got this year, not on the drivers, but on developing next year's car, so that when the budget cap comes in, they haven't got to spend the money then. So it makes sense to be financially prudent this year, and I can see, the money being an issue. And it wouldn't be the first time that a team has walked away from a world champion driver over money. The guys behind me, who we've already talked about, Williams, have done it on more than one occasion where they've walked away. They've said no to reigning world champions because of money.
Yeah. I guess we'll find out.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I expect to see Lewis on the grid, but I don't expect him getting the kind of contract that he's going for. Do you know what I mean?
It's basically an extension of what he's already got, though. So
he'll get a bucket full of cash, but do you know what I mean? He's not going to be able to dictate his terms. Do you know what I mean? And that's what currently he feels like he is entitled to do.
And it's interesting because apparently he's trying to put a stipulation in the contract that George Russell can't stand in for him.
Well, this is it. There's lots of rumours out there, but this is it. No one really knows except Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton. And I think there's so many stupid rumours. Basically, what COVID has really given us here is silly season extended.
Yeah.
That's the truth of the matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a case of, right now, I could say that actually, Vettel is actually going to turn out racing in a pink jumpsuit. And this, there's as much evidence for that. They're just going to say, actually, there was a stipulation in the contract that BWT still had to have a large bit of pink somewhere. So he thought, the German can wear it.
It could well happen. We talked about this a little bit last week as well. The Monte Carlo Rally, that's kicked off this week. Sebastian Ogier, as the time that we're recording it, is leading from his Toyota teammate Elfyn Evans. Again, Monte Carlo, is it still as exciting as we were expecting it to be, or not?
Monte Carlo is, because it's still the same formula. It's the formula that we've already known it for years. It's still got the same, sights and sounds. It's why the British rally died off years ago, because they stopped going to the right forests. Used to want to see, fire-breathing cars flying through a forest at 150 miles an hour. And what was it you were seeing instead? A little bit of a dirt track somewhere. And you think, what? Where's my rally gone?
Yeah, I think the British Rally GB, when it moved to being Wales rather than the Kielder Forest and up north, and having some of those fantastic special stages that we used to have, that's when it kind of lost it a little bit.
And this is it. It just loses interest because that's not what people tune in for. It's like, you can guarantee no one in their right mind tunes into the world's strongest man for the commentary.
No.
It's So if all of a sudden they said, actually, this year we're going to have a few smaller guys because actually they chat a bit better.
Yeah.
All of a sudden it would be dead overnight. And this is it. So many things sports need to actually understand. Although they need to stay current, you also can't move away from certain things. And there's so many areas where people make this mistake. It's a bit like Woolworths going away from selling the things that actually made them money.
Yeah, and it's an interesting.
You've got to keep the basic principle there. You can adapt it, but you can't completely change it, because if you do that, you lose where you're going with what you're trying to achieve. Exactly.
I mean, last week we mentioned the Paris-Dakar, which doesn't start in Paris and doesn't end in Dakar. And you think, is it relevant now? No, it's not. And you think, yeah, it'd be like, oh, yeah, let's go and watch the Le Mans 24 hour. Oh, where is it? Not Le Mans. Oh, how long is it? Oh, about 2 hours. What?
Yeah.
It literally, to coin a advertising phrase, it's not doing what it says on the tin.
No. Yeah,
So
right.
it's a bit like if someone actually held the German Grand Prix, but actually held it in Finland.
Interestingly, that has happened before, because the 1982 Swiss Grand Prix was held at the French track Dijon, rather than in Switzerland, and we've had the San Marino Grand Prix held at Imola, which is in Italy, not in San Marino. The Liechtenstein Grand Prix and the Luxembourg Grand Prix held, not Liechtenstein, the Luxembourg Grand Prix held at the Nürburgring in Germany, not in Luxembourg. So,
yeah, but some of these have got historic, reasons for it, such as the San Marino. There were actually historic reasons behind it, at least, but it's like randomly changing things. That's the
I mean, if there's a valid reason for moving the Grand Prix or something because of an upheaval that's happening within that place, all well and good. But don't just move it and call it something else just because you think I can. It's pointless.
Yeah.
I mean, no offense, but it's like in football, the Carabao Cup. The what now? Sorry, what's that competition? What? Yeah.
That's that energy drink, that Carabao, isn't it?
But this is it.
Drink that.
See, I still remember the days of the Johnston's Paint Trophy and the GM Vauxhall Conference.
Well, exactly, but this is it.
I had the Littlewoods Cup.
Oh, the Littlewoods Cup.
Yeah. The milk cup. I remember that they had the milk cup as well.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, we're old. Thanks for reminding me. But this is still getting back to the point, though, that there's so many things that change, and then they become irrelevant for a pointless change. And you do get it in motorsport far too much, and it's just painful to watch. It really is. Okay. And this is it. Change for change's sake isn't a good thing. Sometimes motorsport has to evolve. It's a case of you can't really just go and stick dirty, great big V12s or V10s in things anymore. As much as we're all hark on about the sound, and don't get me wrong, they sound nice, but is that really sustainable for the future? Give it 10 years down the line, and everyone's going to be literally looking at you like you're going fox hunting.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Right. Final thoughts from everyone as we come to wrapping up this podcast. Tim, start with you.
Ooh, stop messing with perfectly good motor racing events.
Okay. Well, your final thoughts on what we've talked about.
Final thoughts are they need to pull their finger out their asses and look more afield into the women's formula and get that more in the F1 drivers' training schemes. Get more into that. And I reckon that Perez is going to do far better than we actually give him credit for.
Okay.
Also, one quick point. Can we have a charity appeal to get Wolf a realistic connection to the internet?
Hey, I'll put it on. It's my Wi-Fi connection went bad. My Wi-Fi connection went bad, so I just put it off and I got 4G. Thanks to Kevin Bacon, my connection is better. Although I want to punch Kevin Bacon right in the neck so badly. God, I hate that man.
Bacon. It's okay. I'm just thinking about breakfast in the morning. Right, guys. Thank you very much. It's been fun as always, and until next time. Thank you. Like and subscribe down below.